What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my legend run in the season of Hidden Gems. Let's face it, guys. You've seen this core like 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and I'm sorry, but in my opinion, it is the best core in the entire Ultra League at the moment. Shadow Low and Sandslash with the new Drill Run update with Legacy Shadow Claw, and you've got Giratina altered with Dragon Breath as the fast move and running Ancient Power in the back. But the thing that made this team click for me yesterday in my Patreon live stream was Clefable. With Fairy Wind, it has been just such an amazing Pokemon in general, even hits Charizard hard enough. So let's jump straight into the battles here and go and just talk about it and see exactly what happened here, because I had an incredible run yesterday. I went 19-6, I gained almost 200 points, and this team is so good. So we hit a really nice lead. The opponent's got a Gliscor and they swap out. Now Jellicent is a little bit awkward. I could come in with my Clefable here, and I mean, you outpace to the Moonblast with Fairy Wind, but I stay in here with my Sandslash because I figured that I can use my Clefable against the Gliscor, but I do decide to just bring it in because I want to at least preserve the Sandslash before it gets hit with the charge move. But the thing that I have to remember here is that my opponent swapped out with quite a bit of energy, so I'm going to build up some energy of my own. I know that this will not KO. I will live with some HP, but they're going to go for a Surf instead, which forces me to throw the Moonblast now instead of farming up any more energy, which now just kind of means that Clefable sits there and gets farmed down. But my opponent instead brings in a Registeel, thinking that the Registeel completely walls my Clefable, and you're right, it does. But Clefable gets to Moonblast so quick that if my opponent really wants to farm me all the way down, that's fine. I'll hit him with as many Moonblasts as I can, get a debuff if I'm lucky, and then I'll come in with my Giratina here because it completely walls their energy. But they swap into Gliscor, and I'm like, man, I really need the alignment at this point. So I let the Clefable go down, and I come back in with my Sandslash, come back in with the Giratina, sorry. I come back in with the Giratina because I want to absorb the Night Slashes that the opponent has built up all this energy for. They had enough for an Earthquake, which is really awkward. Then I'm going to come back in with my Sandslash after I've wasted some of their energy because they just swapped. And since I have an extra shield, I should be able to get to 2 Ice Punches before they can get to 2 Night Slashes and an Earthquake, even if that's what they want to do. And at that point, Giratina is healthy enough to tank a Zap Cannon from the Registeel and then some, but I do have to be careful. I'm hoping that my opponent doesn't swap to catch the move, which they do. Very nice swap by my opponent here, and they catch the Ice Punch. But because they can only have so much energy, at 100 energy, the Focus Blast will take 75 energy, which means they'll have 5 lock-ons, which means I can go 5 Shadow Claws and CMP here, which I do. And so when I do that, they have no shields left. The Drill Run is going to KO the Registeel here, and I've got enough HP on my Giratina. I'm pretty sure Night Slash is not going to KO from here, but it's close. But my opponent goes for the Night Slash, and I live with just a fraction of my health bar. And I have the Dragon Claw in case they're back-to-back, and I'm able to take them out. Good game to my opponent here. Very well played. A little quick on the transition there. But next game, we get a Galv lead. So when I see Galvantula, I immediately imagine they've probably got Jellicent Mandibuzz in the back because that's the normal team. The way that I play this matchup out is I go immediately for the Ice Punch. Usually I get a shield. And then afterwards, I will let them throw. I will shield it because they usually go for Discharge. I know that normally shielding is going to mean the lunge, but I think I only had one person against, and this was this person, go lunges against my Alolan Sandslash. Typically they do go for discharges, but I get both shields here, which is fine. I'm actually going to let this go. If they try to lunge me again, that's their problem, but they're going to go for the discharge, which means they can actually farm me down, I believe. I was hoping I'd live with 1 HP to get that Ice Punch or Drill Run off, but I couldn't. So I'm going to come with my Giratina. I'm going to farm all the way down. My opponent is going to throw lunges here to lower my attack. It's going to give me more farm, and I'm going to swap out at that point. And if the opponent does have the Mandibuzz Jellicent in the back, that means that I can come in with my Clefable with a shield advantage and do pretty well there. Now, we are running Ancient Power on the Giratina. With the Ancient Power, it does have a little bit less play against Steel types, but it certainly does help with the closing power against Flyers, especially things like Mandibuzz and even Charizard with you get the shields down. So I actually have never played most of these Clefable matchups before. This is the first time I've used this Clefable since I built it. So I don't know how much damage this did beforehand, but I saw that it did about half with the Fairy Wind, so I'm going to go for another Moonblast right before my opponent gets to their next Shadow Ball, because my opponent has the Mandibuzz in the back, and conserving that HP and throwing before they were able to get to a move was helpful. Now, the opponent's running Air Slash, so it is a little bit better, but the Aerial Ace is almost nothing. It's laughable. So I'm going to be able to get to this Moonblast, and honestly, at this point, I mean, I've got energy on Giratina, I've got Clefable get into a Meteor Mash in just very shortly here, so I'm going to go for the Moonblast anyway, but my opponent concedes. That's going to be a good game. Well played. Swampert in the next game. I should swap to Clefable because I have a better answer in the back, but my stupid self decides to stay in and try and play this out. Now, what I do here is I just kind of go for damage and shields. Shadow Swamperts typically shield things, but this person is being very smart with this matchup, and they know they don't have to. The Swampert doesn't really have an immense amount of play against my backline. I committed, and at that point, I was like, I can't swap out. It's too late. The opponent's going to have energy. So, Clefable also gets outpaced. It's not really comfortable, and because of that, it has to go for the Moonblast in order to do any real damage. I decided to just stay in against the Swampert lead. So I catch this Hydro Cannon on my Giratina, and I'm going to continue to farm. And they swap out into a Mandibuzz, and this is why I like having Ancient Power. At least I'm able to fight back against Mandibuzz, and I'm not running Shadow Claw here because this actually allows Giratina to be a counter to Obstagoon and Scrafty. And to a certain degree, like things like Dubwool and other Pokemon that otherwise this team would struggle with if we were running Shadow Claw. So that's my preference, and then we got the idea again. The original core came from a Mind Joke, and a couple other people have run very similar teams to this. But this is the one that I decided to, take up the mantle and pilot. So the opponent is going to be able to take out my Giratina here, but I will be able to come in with my Sand Slash and farm down. The Swampert didn't have any energy, so they were not able to get to a charge move. But the Mandibuzz comes back in, and here I am not able to get this full farm down before they're able to get to a charge move. I don't know how much damage Foul Play does. I'm thankful that it wasn't Dark Pulse, because it probably would have been enough. My opponent has a Tentacruel in the back, and I'm kind of shaking in my wee boots right now, because Tentacruel does definitely counter Clefable, but what are the chances that they actually are running Sludge Wave? Probably not much. Usually they run either Scald with Acid Spray or with Blizzard, so as long as they're not running Sludge Wave, I'm looking good here. What I need to do is go for 2 Meteor Mashes and hope that they're enough to KO. Meteor Mash is a pretty good Steel-type move in that it has a very good amount of damage for the energy that it puts out. So, as long as this does over half of the remaining Tentacruel's HP, I know I can throw another one, and it does, so we're good, because I also know that because my Sand Slash wins CMP against Tentacruels, and Clefable wins CMP against Sand Slash, I'm good here. So we throw this Meteor Mash and take out the opponent's Tentacruel. That's a good game. Going into this next game, we got a mirror lead. Now, here's the thing that you want to keep in mind with the Shadow versus the non-Shadow of Alolan Sand Slash. If you're using a Shadow and your opponent is using a non-Shadow, you can tank the first move pretty comfortably. If your opponent is a Shadow Sand Slash, you will get hit with a Drill Run, and then you will get farmed down before you get to another Drill Run. So, you do need to keep that in mind as you're playing this matchup. What I really need to do here is just make sure that I can keep this thing away from my Giratina. Clefable's not that bad into this because it has Meteor Mash. It's actually not a bad matchup. So, I stay in here and I commit. I'm going to go for a bait, hoping that I can get another shield. My opponent calls it like a champion, and they also win CMP. So I'm going to be forced to burn my second shield here if I want to keep this. So what I do here is I burn the shield. My opponent goes for the Ice Punch because I'm at like no HP. They know they can. And I either want this shield or I want that Sand Slash gone for my Giratina. So they let it go. They keep the shield advantage. And then Clefable's going to come in. And with the shield advantage, that Clefable is going to run through the rest of my team, so I decide to surrender, save some time. But in the next game, we get a really nice lead. Steelix, and my opponent stays in for a bit here, which is telling that they may be core broken. My opponent tries to catch a Drill Run on Pidgeot and then quits because they know they must have been super weak to Sand Slash. I don't know, but it could have been tanking. The opponent was a legend, so they could have been tanking, or they could have just said, I don't want to deal with this, and they just quit. So next game, we've got another Galvantula lead. I've seen so many Galvantulas this season as opposed to any other season lately. It's actually kind of wild. So, I mean, I'm guessing that they do fairly well against, like, Virizion and a lot of the waters that we're seeing. Also good against Charizard, so that's probably why I'm seeing so many of them. But I have a Gal, but I can never get it to work. It's just so bad using it. All right, so here in this, because of the fact that they have Jellicent and Mandibuzz in the back most likely, I decided to go for both shields and just farm down and get switch advantage here. I have energy. Sandslash with energy is always good, and then my opponent pops up with an Obstagoon, and then they don't swap out of the Obstagoon, and at this exact moment, I'm like, I'm about to get a Hyper Beam to the face or a Gunk Shot or something, so I'm going to just throw the energy before the opponent gets the move. They're going to shield up, and I do know that my Giratina has play here, but it's not really much. So I've never taken a Gunk Shot, but thankfully my IVs are good enough that I don't get, taken out because of it. Now, my Giratina is going to have to clean this game up here. We got a Mandibuzz in the back, so we do have half of the team read correct, and I have some energy on my Sandslash, and it's got enough HP to hopefully withstand a charge move, or at least I thought. So I go for the CMP tie, hoping that I'm going to live this move with a little bit of HP, but unfortunately for me, my opponent's move is going to take out my Sandslash. It's just enough, and I have to finish this up with Giratina. But again, this is why we run Dragon Breath. Going to be able to farm down the Mandibuzz, and I just need to get Dragon Breaths plus 2 Dragon Claws or so to KO this Obstagoon, and unless they get the boost, they're going to need 3 Night Slashes and then some to take me out. So that's the first Night Slash. I'm just farming up energy. I want to get to these Dragon Claws, and once I have about 2, I'm going to throw my energy, and at this point, I'm just going to have to see. Close enough. Going to be able to go for the next Dragon Claw. My opponent is over farming a bit. They know that they need more than 2 to take me out, and I'm going to be able to take out the Obstagoon, and that's going to be a good game. Well played. Into this next one, we've got in Alolan Ninetales on the lead. Now, I know we've seen a lot of good leads here, or neutral leads. Honestly, that's probably why I was able to rip up as hard as I did yesterday, was because I saw so many decent or favorable leads. But what also would have happened a lot was I would see a good lead, but they'd come in with a core breaker like Tapu Fini, something that I couldn't really bring in my backline because I needed that Sandslash, but I also needed to keep, Clefable or Giratina somewhere else. So I actually make a really big brain play here, and I'm counting perfectly, and my opponent gets fully farmed down by my Sandslash. They were just at the 6th one to get to the Weather Ball, which I would have no shield at that point, but it's just, patience and counting is helpful. It comes out with this much energy against a Swampert, and I'm going to be able to do a lot of work here. Go for another Ice Punch here, hoping to get to another one, but unfortunately they cut me off and go for the Hydro Cannon, which is going to take out my Sandslash. But I can come in with the Giratina and start farming. My opponent pops in with an Ampharos. I've also seen a lot of Ampharos lately. Electric has just been really good. I was hoping to catch a Brutal Swing right here, but unfortunately I didn't. My opponent's throwing a charge move anyway. Like, hopefully it's not Zap Cannon. No, it's Thunder Punch. So they have enough for 2 moves here. So they're going to throw another Thunder Punch. They will probably get me low enough to farm down, and I need to basically try to get their shields at this point. Brutal Swing is still going to hurt my poor Giratina. It's going to hurt. Now, Giratina does more damage here with the Dragon Claw, Dragon Breath combination, but I absolutely have to be careful about how I play this. So what I need to do here is I need to get up to 2 Dragon Claws before my opponent can get to 2 more Brutal Swings. I have to shield this one up, and I just have to hope that it's going to be enough. But my opponent comes in with a Swampert, and they know they're not going to get to the Earthquake. I thought they had enough energy to throw at least a Hydro Cannon, but I guess maybe they didn't get it off in time, so maybe they forfeit because of that. Sometimes it happens where you're tapping the move and it doesn't go off, so I feel for that person. So this is one of those games where you get a good lead, but you can't really swap out, or at least, like, Clefable into Tapu Fini is not bad, but I have to land, I think I have to get at least 4 Moonblasts off in the time that it takes for them to get to, a bunch of Water Guns and Surfs. It's just not comfy. So I decided to stay in here because I still outpace this Tapu Fini, and I would actually be fine with keeping my Clefable on the Giratina. So I decided to stay in this matchup, start playing it out. I shield, my opponent likely shields back here. Now they're with an Ice Punch range, and at this point, I don't know if I can farm them down, so I'm not going to get too greedy with my energy. I'm just going to throw a few more Shadow Claws here, and then throw an Ice Punch to take out the Tapu Fini. I will get alignment this way, and that's honestly all I need. Once I get the alignment that I want, hopefully whatever they've got in the back, which is a Cobalion, Clefable's going to rip this team up. It's going to happen. So the opponent does not shield the Cobalion, and Clefable and Giratina are going to be able to take this team out here. Giratina is going to stay in here just to get a little bit of a farm, and then throw a Dragon Claw for chip. I know that with as low as that Cobalion is, my Giratina can absolutely hang with it. I bring in my Clefable. My opponent has Shadow Claw as the fast move, so it's not as good as if it were going to be Dragon Breath. But Shadow Sneak is their move of choice on their Giratina, and I'm going to go for this Moonblast. I probably could have gone for Meteor Mash here. It probably would have been enough, but I'm going to go for the safe route. I'm also making sure that I know my opponent's not going to catch right now, but I'm going to go straight Moonblast here just because I'm not remembering how much the switch timers were at before I swapped out. I noticed mine's getting to about 20 seconds. That's close enough for me to be careful, so I'm just going to go for the Moonblast just in case I wanted to try and catch. And then my opponent is going to go for I think we'll leave a Stone Edge here before I can get to my Moonblast, which is fine. That's what they should be doing, because the Sacred Sword would not have KO'd, but then I can just come in with my Giratina and they quit. So next game here, we're going to get into that. Well played to my opponent, by the way. Rayquaza, shiny Rayquaza. And this person is a legend, so they're entitled to run their spice. My opponent comes in with a XehrFelrose, and because the switch takes 1 turn, I can go for 6 Shadow Claws and throw the drill run. My opponent doesn't shield it because they thought that it could have been an Ice Punch, and at that point, we're good, because I can align my Clefable to the Rayquaza, I can align my Sandslash to the Rayquaza. We're just chilling here. I'm going to see what the opponent wants to bring in here. It's going to be the Jellicent, and now Jellicent is absolutely shiny. It is a good-looking shiny. I mean, I don't like a lot of the green shinies, but that is a good-looking green shiny. And my opponent and I CMP, so I get the drill run off, and they're going to go and throw their Surf. And now I should be able to come with my Giratina. I know that the shields are up, but honestly, I need my Clefable on the Rayquaza, so I'm going to stay in, throw the Dragon Claw for chip or get a shield, and then I can come in with my Clefable after I tank this Breaking Swipe. Because I don't know how much damage this does. I know it's a lot, but it's not enough. You know, Giratina is really tanky. And at this point, I'm going to go for a full farm down. I suspect they're probably running Dragon Ascent, given that it's a shiny Rayquaza and it's a legend. And I'm like, why wouldn't you? Because Dragon Ascent, look at that animation. It's beautiful. And then I farm down the opponent entirely, and they decide to concede the match. So good game, and into the next one we go. We've got a Walrein on the lead. This is our final game, folks. This is actually, I was at 29-35, I think, before this set, so I needed a 5-0 in order to hit it. My Patreon group that I was streaming with, as I do private streams for them, and I'll soon be doing public streams here on YouTube as well. So let me know in the comments if you're excited for that, because I'll be starting that up in September. I know that I can tank 1 full Earthquake from a Walrein, so I decided to call the bait here. And then I'm going to go for this drill run. It leaves them with like 2 HP, unfortunately. But I have to shield this. I decide I'm going to take the energy, and I'm going to take switch advantage here and hope that the opponent does not have anything nutty in the back to beat the rest of my team with. So they come with a Charizard. Normally, shield disadvantage, this would be bad, but I have the energy advantage to make up for it. So I'll be able to go for a couple of Ice Punches here and put this Charizard really low, especially because they decided to let one go. Shadow Charizard does not tank these very well. I just, at this point, the Charizard has gotten so low my Giratina could take it out, so I'm going to let my Sandslash go, let the opponent decide if they're going to bait me or not, and they do not, so I'm going to come in with my Giratina. Opponent has an Origin Form Giratina in the back, running a little bit of spice. I've seen a couple of those over the last couple of days. I love Origin Giratina, it's so cool. But alas, because I have Clefable, yes, Clefable will still take neutral from the Shadow Balls, but I know that I can tank 1, and my opponent is going to have to shield this Moonblast if they want to keep it alive. There's no sense in trying to come in with the Charizard here, because it's just too low, so they're going to have to invest their shield into the Giratina as they did. And then because I know my Giratina can probably Dragon Breath down and or get to a move before the Giratina could get to a Shadow Ball, I'm gonna save the shield for Giratina, hit Charizard with an Ancient Power, and take out the Charizard. And that is going to be a 5-0 to clinch Legend. And I actually had another one of my Patreon members hit Legend with this team today as well. So I can definitely vouch that this is a strong team. Clefable is an XL, absolutely worth building. Alolan Sandslash is a staple meta Pokemon in all of Great League and Ultra League now, so that's also worth, and I would always build the Shadow over the non-Shadow. Anyway, real quick, if you'd like to join the Patreon group, get access to these teams before they go live on YouTube, I got that probably down here at this point, but also in the pinned comment description. On Metafy for coaching if you're interested in improving your game, making a stretch push for the last of the season. And I'll be at GoFest if anybody's going to be there. Again, let me know in the comments. Be in GoFest. We can see if we can meet up or something. But that's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Now I'm going to catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.